Let's finish Islam with a relatively contemporary mosque construction, which will give us a little bit of an idea of the way in which Islamic architects can reimagine traditional forms of Islamic architecture. This is figure 2.28 in our textbook. Mr. O'Reilly has the outside the exterior view like this for you. It is located in Pakistan, and it's the National Mosque of Pakistan. It has another name, however. It was supported by a generous donation, kind of stipend, by King Faisal of Saudi Arabia. So this is also known as the Faisal Mosque. It originally, when it opened in 1986. Originally, at that time, and for a few years after that, it was the world's largest mosque. So it's quite extensive in terms of size. Today, it is the fourth largest mosque in the world. So it is a very, very big structure. O'Reilly estimates that it can hold up to 300,000 people at one time. So we are talking about a very, very big building. It is also a building that is incredibly modern. It is very non traditional in many ways, not always, but many ways, in terms of its design. As a consequence of that, at first the conservative Muslims in Pakistan really hated this building. They rejected it and found it to be anathema. Today, people have come to embrace it and actually love this building. But because it broke away from past traditions, it was considered almost blasphemous at first. I am not particularly surprised at that because conservative Muslims also even believe that we should not have minarets on mosques. And the reason for that is that the Prophet Muhammad did not use minarets, did not build a minaret at his home, which was traditionally the first mosque. So it takes a while to accept new ideas. And this is definitely a mosque filled with new ideas. The first thing that you might notice are the minarets, and there are four minarets surrounding the structure, making it symmetrical and, in that sense, relatively formal. It should remind you of the centrally planned Turkish mosques. And in fact, the architect Vedat Delikay is a Turkish architect, so he brought some of his own heritage to this more modern construction, more modern compared to the Mosque at Edirne, for example. However, look what he did with the minarets. He has streamlined them so that they almost look a little bit like rockets. They have a smoothness and a sense of soaring. Now, I have a couple different heights listed for them, and I'm not really sure which one is right. The top end is 300 feet, but I also have 260 feet in height for those minarets. At the end of the day, I'm not sure it makes a huge difference. Both of them would be higher, both dimensions would be higher than the 230 feet height given for the minarets at Edirne. So we continue with the idea of soaring up to the skies and really showcasing the body of the mosque itself by silhouetting it all the way around with the minarets. This does qualify not just as a modern building or a reasonably contemporary design, it also falls into the category of postmodern. And the reason for that is that it reassembles, reinterprets past designs in a modern context. It reinterprets them, it reanalyzes them, it recontextualizes past designs in a new context, and to some extent in a playful way. The design that is being reused here in an updated manner is the Bedouin tent. And ultimately, the critics of this structure came to appreciate that idea because the Bedouin is still admired in the world of Islam today. This updated Bedouin tent design is set against the Himalayas, which create a kind of backdrop for it. Grandeur behind the structure with a roof as well as minarets that rise to the heavens. It's a little bit easier to see the playful reinterpretation that the architect is using in these diagrams, drawings, and aerial photo of the mosque. What the architect has done has been to create, and I do count four sides, a four-sided structure with a kind of triangular, and we can go up here and maybe see it also, with a triangular, or many people say a pyramidal shape. But the roof, the gabled roof, which is above it, a gabled roof being a kind of typical formed roof, has a higher end at the center of the building, the centrally planned section of the building. As we come down the roof, literally we do come down, it gets lower and lower. And as a result of that, we end up with two visibly triangular sections on the roof as well that fold into the triangular form that meets its neighbor roof on the other side, giving this structure a very complex form. And sometimes I'm hearing people describe it as octagonal, but I don't see any octagonal forms unless you begin to count the panels of the roof. Consequently, I would like to say that the architect has combined a simplicity of design along with a kind of dynamism. In other words, I think this is a pretty good design. This is what it looks like from the inside. It is open, it is spacious, and it is well lit. If you've ever been in a tent, if you've been lucky enough to be in a Bedouin tent, you know that you get a little bit of a sense of the same kind of openness, almost a sense of air coming in from outside, and perhaps in some interiors of tents, the kind of illumination that might come from pulling back the drape of the wall. This is a view of individuals engaged in the act of prayer. And one of the things that I wanted to show you that was also, I'm going to call definitely postmodern, and that is the new updated mihrab. And that is located, this is a group of folks who are praying, and they're praying in the direction of Mecca, which is marked by a very postmodern mihrab. And you can see it a little bit closer view over here on our right. This modern mihrab has been reimagined in a very playful way as an open book, but the open book of the Quran. It's been crafted out of white marble and it is open to Surah 55. It is engraved in gold, which is a traditional use from the past. And it would be, the use of gold would be a reference to the very, very sacred nature of the text. It is large in scale, overwhelming, and yet it works perfectly as a mihrab, and it also reminds all Muslims that the foundation of their faith is the Word of God as it is recorded in the Quran. So I would like to suggest that this is a pretty successful modernization of traditional mosque design, including the interior furniture.